couple things we've learned along the way. Don't always trust your Apple Map or your Google Map, because sometimes they're gonna take you to some weird spot. Sometimes what we do is we'll have like, a paper map, the old school kind, that we kind of look at to make sure that we understand where we're going. It's also good for the kids too, because they can it's educational. But it actually is kind of critical, because we've had situations where maybe Apple Maps or Google Maps have taken us on the shortest route, but that's not always the best route. And we've ended up in some strange places towing something quite large. And sometimes it's not that much fun. So I would definitely check in with some kind of a paper map just to make sure you know what your route is. Some other really great things too to use, depending on where you're going. If you're gonna be more in an off-grid situation, there's some downloadable maps on Onyx, which is a great tool to use if you're going kind of deeper in and you're not gonna be around service. Those things always typically work well. Some of the other apps we use are more booking apps and kind of information around, let's say, service. There's an app that we use a lot called Campendium. It's a great app. It's gonna tell you where you can and cannot get service. Connectivity sometimes when you're working on the road can be tricky. It's always good to know where you're gonna be and what you're getting into from a service perspective, and whether or not you're gonna have it. Some of the other apps that we use for bookings when we're on the road are dyrt and hipcamp. Dyrt and hipcamp are both apps geared towards private land camping. Sometimes, especially now, a lot of sites book up really fast, and we've had to use those to kind of work our way through an area where maybe there's a state park or something that's completely booked up. Never forget that there's these apps out there that you can actually camp on private land, and they've come in really handy, especially when we've been way out west and some sites are booked up, and you hit up the dyrt or you hit up hipcamp and you can find really cool spots that are awesome, and sometimes that adds to the experience. But let's go back and go through this. So I think paper maps are really critical. Don't always trust your Google Map or your Apple Map. Make sure that you kind of know where you're going before you get into it. Campendium for service and connectivity, and dyrt and hipcamp for kind of private land bookings. So all these apps and booking apps will also be on the downloadable PDF if you want to check it for later. Next up, arriving and setting up camp.